Hi, this is Natalie Lander, voice of Kinsey, Tara Branford, Stargirl, and many others. You are listening to a W2Mnet podcast. You can visit W2Mnet.com for other podcasts about entertainment, video games, sports, and wrestling.
Good evening and welcome to, well, technically episode 6 of Black Irish, but we'll get into more of that later. And I am your host, Jason Teasley. With me, as always, the token black knight of the W2M network, Mr. Erik Watkins.
I mean, could I file some sort of legitimate beef about what happened? Because I have a feeling with everything going on, it would be pretty apropos.
Yeah, and we're going to start that. So I'm going to go ahead and give the disclaimer at the top of the episode, meaning if you're offended, go fuck yourself. This show is meant to offend you and have those tough conversations. With that being said, this is a typical show that is of discussion and opinions based on personal experience and our personal beliefs. With that being said, Erik, I think we should let everybody know what happened. I'll let you do the honors since you're the producer of the W2M network, and you probably caught a lot more heat than I did.
Okay, so for those of you who happen to listen to the last episode of Black Irish, first of all, thank you. And for those who haven't been able to listen, don't be alarmed. We're still on all of your favorite podcasting platforms. But if you listen via YouTube, you may notice something's missing. With the last week's particular topic, specifically when we went into the vaccine and all of our separate thoughts and opinions on that, YouTube and their algorithms, they really didn't appreciate that a whole bunch. So, based upon what we said, certain keywords and things that were triggered by their algorithms or what have you, YouTube decided to not only take the episode down and essentially issue the W2M Network YouTube channel a warning. Not quite a full-on copyright strike, because no copyrighted material, but a bit of a warning and basically saying, hey, this kind of shit happens again, we're kicking you off for posting anything for a week. So, we're in those crosshairs. And yeah, as much as YouTube as I look at, I'm going to have to kind of dole out a fuck you in this instance.
Yeah, and it was basically surrounding a comment that I personally made, and I'll take responsibility for making the comment about my personal beliefs on a certain numerical infection going around. So we'll just leave it at that. I don't need any more hate mail from Sean. But if you want to send hate mail, it's s.garmer@gmail.com. He'll be more than happy to read it. It's pretty much, he said he hasn't got any hate mail so far. So all 4 of you that do listen to this, you're slacking. But with that being said, it goes back to the whole censorship. And if you don't believe a certain way, then you get shadow banned. I guess that'd be a good term. Shadow banning content that doesn't fit a certain narrative, and we'll just leave it at that. But
yeah.
with that being said, oh boy, do we got an episode for you guys this week. And to start things off is going to be a controversial topic that has been in the news. I'm going to say for 2, possibly 3 years. A bit about, certain demographic of volunteers reading stories to small children. And I'm treading lightly on this because I'm getting ready to blast it full force. With that being said, news came out this week about a Wisconsin judge who participated in the Transgender Drag Queen Storytime with Your Children storybook reading, who has now been brought up on several counts of child pornography and I think it was lewd behavior. I know there was several counts of child pornography, each carrying like 25 years. Each carry, it doesn't give the exact number, but it says allegedly uploaded 27 videos to the internet of child pornography. Uploaded at a Milwaukee, and two of the files were uploaded at a Milwaukee County government building. So we're going to start here, Eric. We're going to start with the simple things, and then we're going to get into the meat. We're going to do the appetizer, then we're going to get into the entree. So I want your thoughts and feelings about the drag queen story time concept that has been going on and been supported before you heard this story.
Now, I'm going to admit, I've had nothing against drag queens. I think a lot of them are pretty awesome. I mean, I'm not the kind of guy that would sit and watch RuPaul's Drag Race, but if it's on, nothing against it. It would be pretty entertaining television. And I even saw a story about this one TikTok creator who's relatively famous, who, drag queen herself, goes ahead and encourages and teaches math, which, as a math tutor myself, that really hits the spot for me, helping provide valuable education. I get that. I can understand the medium, especially now with our current situation, about interacting with kids, reading them stories, getting them ready for bed, having something to help kind of keep them going, helping the parents out. I don't mind that part of it. I even encouraged Mama Watkins when she had the idea to say, hey, why don't you set up a YouTube channel? You've got a good imagination. You've got a good voice. Reading children's books or telling stories for children, it would be very valuable. So I have no problem with that. But at the same time, if you're going to do this, you need to be very, very careful. The types of people, looking into their backgrounds, just like in any other aspect, just like you have to pass certain background checks and have forms and have all kinds of things filled out so you can run a daycare or you can teach at a school or all of these things. If there was something similar about that, especially with the kind of heat that YouTube has gotten about children and having YouTube channels and their identities and the people who have commented on children's YouTube videos, that's pretty necessary. And if that's lacking in any way, well, you're going to get this kind of a shit happening. So, on a whole, I say I'm for it, but there needs to be at least a couple of safeguards here.
Yeah, I'm going to go flat out and say I'm totally against it. I think now saying I'm against it doesn't mean that I'm saying I'm against, drag queens, transgender, all that. I believe to each their own. I'm against subjecting children to that lifestyle at an early age while their brain is still developing.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine, reading children's books, that's fine, as long as it's not Dr. Seuss that we've learned. But I think that there's a certain time to introduce children to alternative lifestyles. And elementary school is not that time. They're just finding the sense of self as it is. Going through, you have a a long period of development through your elementary to, or elementary, as Kennedy would say, um, years of school. And then you go into the adolescence of your body changing and everything. I think once, early freshman year and stuff, I don't think it needs to be a story time. Do I think that there could be an alternative, like class or curriculum, like in a health uh, side of things, like, you know, when your body, after your body's changing, you know you're trying to find your identity, you're trying to find yourself once you get older, like your freshman sophomore year of high school. I'm fine with it. That introducing kids to alternative lifestyle, then totally fine with, because that's when you're trying to find yourself. You may have kids that feel that they don't fit in as a hetero male or female. That happens. I mean, I grew up with a kid
Mm-hmm.
that I grew up with a kid. You knew him all through growing up. Everybody knew he was different. And when he got to high school, he came into his own. And now he's very successful. But he didn't. He knew that he was different, but he needed to find himself and how to deal with that. Subjecting
Mm-hmm.
children to subjecting children to this stuff early on is going to create more issues and going to be counterproductive. And going back, and I want to expound on this since we got our both takes. This wasn't the first time. There has been multiple issues with child sex offenders being allowed to participate in this drag queen story time. As you said, if you're going to do it, go through the proper procedures, go through a proper vetting process. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you have a vetting process, how people access some of your content, and Lord knows, sometimes I wish I failed that part of the friendship, but glad I did.
Especially with things going on OnlyFans, but that's a topic for another day.
But um, but yeah, I mean, you need to. I know some, when volunteering at a school, just normal volunteers go through a stringent background check and everything. Why is this not the same? Why are you having people that have been committed of sexual uh, assault, misconduct, and everything reading to children? Why do you have sex offenders even being able to participate? I think that this is something that is a huge thing that, if you're going to do it right.
Oh yeah.
But I think that also, if you're going to do it, you need to maybe do it at a developmental stage that the mind is cognitive enough to process what's going on.
And
I
I
mean,
mean,
I've got it. I follow a guy on TikTok. He's transgender. Well, he's not transgender. He's a drag queen. Um,
mm-hmm.
and he's hilarious. Uh, love his content. Would I say anything if he doesn't? No, because he doesn't he doesn't he does the drag as a outlet, just like some people do theater. I mean, to some people that do drag, it's like doing theater,
Oh yeah.
and it's an outlet, which is totally cool with me. I don't care, but if I think that you need to have the right motives and the right curriculum to follow if you want to do this.
Exactly. And I honestly think, especially for little kids, you can kind of emphasize the whole character aspect of it. Like, kids on people on TV shows, it's the characters, and then the people underneath the characters, stuff like that. You don't necessarily break those veils for the children, but you as an adult watching a show with your child, and I like that emphasis on it. Maybe branding it in this particular way, not entirely the best for some of those reasons, but if you look at it as more of a theatrical, oh, well, these characters reading you these stories, hey, that would make it much easier. Then the parents could explain however way that they want. So that makes it an easier pill to swallow. But again, just like when you're getting these jobs as characters, you and I agree. Vet, 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 vet. There's no way something like this should be happening because, unfortunately, and historically, those who have offended or have done a lot of these things in the past are likely to re-offend. So when you're putting them into that kind of a pool, you're not going to get the best results.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel that, like I said, I think it needs to, if you want to introduce something that to a school age child, I think it needs to be later on when they're
Mm-hmm.
trying to find their identity.
Yeah.
Which I think would be a huge asset. If somebody's feeling out of place, maybe seeing that or talking to someone or something later on in, like I said, their freshman, sophomore year, having some kind of like health curriculum that identifies it, I'd be okay with it. Uh, it would be, I don't think it needs to be mandatory. I think it needs to be kind of like an elective class. So you kind of, you're not forcing a belief on someone, which Lord knows if that happens enough, but you're giving the opportunity to find someone that doesn't feel that they fit into a certain dynamic. You're giving them that opportunity to explore. Or if and it might not even be somebody, it might not even be the case. It might just be somebody that you want to learn about the struggles, the lifestyle. You know, it could
Mm-hmm.
be something as that. But introduce that because why our school system now, I think our school system has failed in multiple ways, which that's going to be a topic in a future episode. But I think one of the biggest things is, and I'm going to make this generalized statement, our school systems in the United States have failed our children in prepping them from once they're outside of school, whether it be
Absolutely.
life on your own, balancing checkbook, doing taxes, everything, which we'll discuss in the future episode, but also the different cultures, the different lifestyles you're going to be integrated in. Um, you're going to have this. You're going to have this issue as well, and I think that would be a good idea to introduce people to a different mindset before they graduate and actually prepare them for the real world. Because if not, you're failing. This generation's failing greatly. We have a bunch of entitled pricks and
Mm-hmm.
uh, everything that thinks the world revolves around them. You need to teach kids that you're not that special. Once you get out in the real world, nobody gives a fuck about you unless
Mm-hmm.
your feelings don't matter. If you get pissed off, if somebody hurts your feelings, oh well, it's the real world. Suck it up,
Yep.
buttercup, get over it. Uh,
Everybody's going to be
but
butthurt over something.
but with that being said, you have, and this goes back to, I feel like we mentioned this on every episode. You go back to cancel culture. You're actually letting these kids dictate the real world. You're letting less than 2% dictate the 98% because they're getting offended, and that doesn't need to happen. And like I
Nope.
said, we'll talk about the education system at a future thing. I just want to address the fact that you do have this out there that a quote unquote great thing to have in our school systems and everything, and then you see shit like this happen, like where a judge who has political power was arrested for child pornography, and he was participating in this. So my question is, and then we'll wrap up on this aspect of it, is, was any of the kids that he was reading to the subject of what was the 27 videos that was found on his computer and the files that they did find? So I mean, that's something to think about, and that's something that's going to create a huge mental instability with young people growing up that have to go through that have to be exposed to that. And like I said, I think if you're going to do this, do it the right way, because shit like this is very counterproductive.
And even with the fact that, and you just brought up a good point, and this was leading to what I said as far as the pool of the children in the audience. All the people that commented on these videos meant for children, just like people commenting on children's videos. There's been reports of sex offenders doing that. YouTube had to make almost wholesale changes. We don't know if he was going on his off time or reaching out to different kids or things like that. You just don't know. This could be going a lot deeper. And you're right. All these kids who were exposed to it, even more so, any of these kids that were actual victims of it, who were part of those videos and materials and all of these files. That's a whole different level of scarring for life. And that's something that we should be having a more of a conversation about, and we have with all these things, preventing child abuse and all this stuff. Well, in a digital world, which we're increasingly going even more towards than we are now, these kinds of things are prone to snowball into that, and you're going to end up with a lot of traumatized children. And who wants that in society? Who wants to be the parent of a traumatized child? And those who grow up with that trauma and have kids of their own. So many negative effects that could cascade from this.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very tough thing, because I mean, how many kids are experiencing something like this, and it being socially acceptable being the reason that they don't speak out? So, I mean, that's something to think about as well, because Lord knows that, if a kid is being subjected to this, and society saying that, oh, pedophilia is okay. No, it's not. It's not okay. It's somebody's not right in the head. And it sickens me, honestly.
Even aside from this, because one thing that a lot of people can agree on, pedophilia being just no, and all of these things, even those who were ephebophiliacs, it's something that in some ways people like justify this and that, and I've seen all kinds of things and had conversations. It's like, okay, but just know people have every right to give you side eye or shifty looks, because The minute anything happens, you've automatically been warned.
Yeah, and I mean, the good thing about this, if you do have any hate mail, you can use Grammarly.com to type that shit up and send it to Sean. Sean at sgamer.com at gmail.com.
Yeah, I mean, if you're sitting there, you're already pissed off. There's even a widget for Gmail that you can use. So you pop that up, it's already in your browser. So as you're typing it out, if you've got a complex error, Grammarly will spot it. If you need spell check, Grammarly will help you out there. If you want to make sure that the tone of your email is just angry enough, Grammarly will also let you know. And if you happen to use a different browser, Grammarly has a standalone app. You just type everything out, let everything flow, and then afterwards Grammarly will look at it and it's like, hey, did you really mean to say this? Hey, you spell rat bastards this way. So there's a lot of things that Grammarly can help you with in these instances. If you want to go ahead with the sampling of all the wonderings that Grammarly has, it's very simple. Go to getgrammarly.com/W2M network and you get a free trial to experience the goodness and get that first email firing. Again, getgrammarly.com/W2M network.
And also, you could type that heartfelt email to someone you love that isn't able to be there for you at the time due to, being deployed across the world, and you just want to drop in and make sure that they reminded that how much you do love and miss them. So with that, we're going to transition into a fun topic, and this is one that kind of dovetails in off of our first topic, and that's Times Person of the Year this year, Erik.
Now, I knew this development as it was going on when he first made the announcement, and I was all for it. And especially with the attitude of large swaths of this country, it was somewhat of a brave choice, especially since he was so well known. And of course, I'm talking about Times Person of the Year, Elliot Page. If you're wondering who, well, if you've seen Juno, or Umbrella Academy, or Gaycation, you may have seen Elliot at the time he was Ellen Page. Now, my initial thought, I appreciate him coming out. I appreciate this whole situation because for a lot of people, and I know this in my life, someone coming out as trans, that is a very, very rough situation. You don't know how their family, their friends, or a lot of people are going to feel. Some you would have issues and they would be threatened to be disowned. So I get that. So the fact that Elliot can come out, live his truth, I'm all for it. But I honestly think that with Time Magazine and in other situations, we've kind of done this before.
Yeah, and actually, I don't think that was named Person of the Year. I think it was just a Time cover piece. So I definitely want to make that clear. But my problem is this: I'm not against transgender people. I'm against transgender people that use it for clout and use it for resurrecting a dying career. Uh, and not necessarily, I mean, a dying career that Paige has had, but because seeing their resurrection with Umbrella Academy. But it's one of those things that I struggle with. Um, I'm all for, if you don't feel that your gender suits you, that's fine. Uh, If you transition male to female, female to male, that is your choice. It does not affect me. When it does kind of put a burr in my ass, I guess you could say, is when you take the platform and you manipulate it, or you say you want to identify as a toaster and that people should, there's two genders. I'm sorry, that's my belief. Biologically, there's two genders. There's male, female. Transgender, you're either transgendering from a male or to a female. It goes one way or the other. I don't think, if somebody wants to really push that, I'm going to start saying that I identify as a 14-year-old Olympic gymnast, and I'm going to sue the Olympic Committee for not letting me compete.
Well, I mean, that would come with a whole host of other problems, given especially the United States and their reputation, as it's recently been discovered, with 14-year-old Olympic gymnasts, but that's different.
That's a different story. But no, I mean, I'm fine with, if you want to identify as a female and you're a male and you want to identify as a female, I'm cool with that. If you're a female, such as Elliot Page, and you want to identify as a male, it's fine. But like I said, if you're using the platform just to gain clout is where I have the issue, because you have legitimate people out there that are struggling with this on an everyday basis, that are overcoming a lot of things, that are not celebrities and not getting praised for their triumphant thing. It's fine. The issue is, and it goes back to our first story. And actually, it goes. The point I can make is in a really good joke. You could save 100 people from a burning building, but you suck one dick. What are you going to be remembered for? As a hero or a dick or a cocksucker?
Cocksucker, mainly.
That's how you're going to be remembered. And this is the same thing. It's, I honestly think that this could be a publicity stunt. I mean, the success of Umbrella Academy resurrected the career. It's gaining a lot of momentum, a lot of notoriety, and to come out as this could be just, hey, I want to do this as to gain bigger roles, because I guarantee you within 18 months, I want to timestamp this, within 18 months, you're going to see Elliot Page get turned down for a role, and you're going to hear the outcry because of transgender.
Oh, okay. This is actually something, and as all of this happened, where I'm going to disagree with you. Now, if we're going about for someone who is transgendered, basically for the clout, for the gram, for the likes, let's go over to Caitlyn Jenner. Exponentially more famous as Bruce, Olympian, decathlete, all these things. And then all of a sudden the Kardashians get in their claws, and then we see this cover, Call Me Caitlyn. And then all of a sudden it's nothing. Now with Elliot's case, number one, throughout Elliot's life, throughout his acting career in many roles, he has made different scales of his truth known. That's why I mentioned the show Gaycation, when he was for the longest time a lesbian. Came out, had a female partner, they've since split up if I remember correctly, all these things, but it wasn't just about, the career or this or that, because while there was Inception, while still fame from Juno and all of these things, it wasn't just, I'm going to do this just to get these roles, I'm going to do this because this is who I am. And even when Elliot first made his announcement, there were so many people who were saying, well, why is he's going to be a man? Why is he still playing Vanya on Umbrella Academy? Why don't they recast and all this and that? And it was the producers and directors of everybody on Umbrella Academy saying, hey, hold on. What the hell are you talking about? This kind of stuff has happened before. Plus, the Umbrella Academy wasn't even renewed. So when you talk about its success, I mean, it was already something that was winding down to begin with. So while I do get there are examples of people who do these things just for the shock value and to revive ailing careers or for relevance, this one, I can't hang that on him. Looking at the track record of everything throughout his career, it makes sense. And the fact that he's not relying on Hollywood to hit all these bigger roles and doing things, he's going on directing and doing all kinds of stuff like that on his own. So it's just from one natural progression, you could say in some cases, another one following along behind it. So that one, I can't quite side with you there.
Well, Umbrella Academy's been greenlit for a third season as of November 10th of 2020. So yeah.
I thought this was...
Go ahead.
I don't know, because I thought that this was already like its third season, or at least that I was watching, but...
That you just finished season 2, 10 episodes per season. Season 2 just wrapped up. It got greenlit
so with this
November.
one, yeah, and so with this one, because I did hear that it was going to be like a final season regardless, because let's just face it, I haven't even finished season 2 because it is nowhere as good as season 1. Some of it rehashing, but a lot of the plot and stuff, the plot...
I disagree. I think season 2 is it built upon season 1.
Well, I get where it's built upon season 1, but I don't know. With season 1, it was very easy for me to get through, to go along with. I don't know if it's the pacing, all of the different subplots with the character arcs and everything, but season 2, it just did not hit for me. I'm gonna try to finish it at some point, but it's like, I get certain detours and stuff you have to make, but I think they made just too many in this case, and it's like, come on.
Now, the first couple of episodes, season 2 does start out a little slow because it's building everything, but about toward the episode of 3, episode 4, and you start seeing what's going on, it kind of picks up and it hooked us. But this is my issue is, and like I said, if anybody wants to drop me a line to discuss this, if you have an educated discussion and, point out some things, I'm more than happy to do so. But Elliot Page was outed in 2014. And I totally disagree how it occurred. It occurred on a press junket for one of the X-Men movies.
Mm-hmm.
And it was not Elliot Page that done it. I think it was actually one of the producers who done it, if I'm not mistaken. So my issue is this. And Erik, this may be in your realm. You might be able to break this down for me. If
sure,
you come out as a lesbian, okay, that means you're attracted to females, right? So if you're in a a gay relationship, female,
Mm-hmm.
female, 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 male, male.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Would it, coming out as transgender, kind of negate the archetype of the relationship?
Yes and no. Because does it change the dynamic at heart? Yes. But I saw a couple as one. They were a traditional couple, assigned male at birth, assigned female at birth. Man now transitioning to a woman, transgender. Woman realizes she's a lesbian. So the dynamic of that relationship inherently changed, but there's still the love there. Plus, I have another one of my friends. She's transgender, and she's actually a transgender lesbian. She is someone who I have known for many, many years. Had a little bit of local notoriety when she entertained and was setting everything up to run for Congress. That led to a lot of different discussions in different parts of town, especially on the radio. But knowing her as long as I have, I'm like, well, this does make sense because, and this is the thing that has really just come out with all of these attractions and with all these different things. Yes, while you have in a base this binary sense, it's been shown and it's come out even more and more, it's not even as binary as we originally thought. These things are on a spectrum, just with us as humans, with animals, all kinds of things that we didn't realize and we are really just beginning to learn, not even really since the start of the 20th century. In the last decade, it's finally been this acknowledgement, and not even a prevalence, but just this awareness of existence that has forced us to rethink, sexuality and gender and all of this. And yes, it's not just like flipping a light switch. It's a whole bunch of things in between. And really, these are the first significant discoveries in that regard since the beginnings of and the release of the Kinsey scale and those ideas back in the 50s and 60s. So it's muddy waters, yes, but there's ways to kind of sort through them to make them a lot less muddy.
Yeah. So I mean, um, I'm not, uh, and it's just one of those things that um, I don't feel that is a a biological thing. I mean, like I said, I mean, this could be something, I find to have discussions on outside of
Mm-hmm.
this. The attraction thing is, and this is, like I said, I mean, I'm going baseline uh, physiologically and scientifically. Uh, Males and females are meant to reproduce. Now, if
Mm-hmm.
you are, I have an issue with, and like I said, and I mean, I don't really, I guess you couldn't say issue, as I just don't understand. If you are in a lesbian relationship and one of your partner transitions to male, I feel that that's a hetero relationship because it's a female male relationship. It becomes a female male relationship. If you want to identify as a male, then that would be identifying as a hetero relationship, no longer same-sex relationship.
And that is actually a valid argument because you have those who are, transitioning that you would say, oh, they, because of how they identify, who they are attracted to sexually, romantically, etc., is different than how they identify, or it's the same as how they identify. And that puts you along in that spectrum, and that's a valid point. We basing it based upon how you identify. And that is actually a very solid argument, and I hope that that opens up to a lot more discussions and discoveries because of it. So I think, I don't know if it was advertent or not, but you may have touched on something big that would actually help this matter.
Yeah, I mean, because you want gender identity to happen, but I feel that that's muddy in the waters because
Mm-hmm.
if somebody is, if somebody's finally, because coming out is still, whether people want to believe it or not, it's still kind of a stigma in the country. You still have people
Absolutely.
that don't want to accept that. You still have children
Absolutely.
that are scared to come out to their parents, even though that's how they feel. They hide it. They live a false life.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, how damaging could it be mentally if you go through the process, you come out to your family and friends as being someone who is accepting that they're attracted to the same sex as them, only to have your partner no longer do that and change. I feel that changed the whole dynamic of the relationship as well. And I think that could cause a lot of confusion with a very frail psyche as is, because does that not mean that could, someone could take that as, okay, I accepted them for who they are, but now they want to change and not be who I fell in love with, not be the person that supported me when I came out. So I think that's a topic that really needs to be discussed, and I think that is something that needs to be taken into account. I don't
Yeah,
think
just like,
I don't think it's some kind of mental illness or something, but I think that
no.
it could fracture our already weakened psychological state of, especially in young people that are trying to find themselves. Doing a coming out as trans when you're in a same-sex relationship could actually cause a mental break and cause mental scarring, because the person could take it as, I'm not good enough. They're
Right.
not accepting me for. So I think that's a discussion that needs to be had. I think that's,
Yeah, and relating to Elliot Page, and this is why he and his partner, they separated, they broke up, and
no,
they
she's
all.
still married. They're married.
Oh, I thought that I had heard something about that, but I
Um,
mean,
no,
feel free
they
to
are
correct me
divorced.
because I may
I'm
be
sorry.
entirely wrong on this.
Emma,
Okay, so
Elliot Page and Emma Porter divorced in 2021. So I stand corrected. I thought it said that. I thought I seen an article that they were still together, but it
mm-hmm.
shows that it shows the divorce um, in 2021. So
Yep.
question.
So this leads to actually a perfect example of what you're talking about. What was going through Emma Porter's mind as Elliot was going through this and when he made his announcement. This brings out your point perfectly. How was she feeling and processing all of that? I would like to think that they would have had extensive conversations about this. And after those extensive conversations and doing both as a couple and then what they needed to do as individuals, they came to this decision because, as far as with everything I read, it was pretty amicable. But yes, this is something that Emma's now going to live with, and how is she going to handle this?
Yeah, would could this be um, could this have led to their divorce?
Maybe. It's entirely possible. This was behind closed doors. I'm not in on their conversations, but if it comes out at some point in the future that this was a deciding factor, wouldn't surprise me whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, it's really crazy because it showed that they divorced. It shows that they're currently going through a divorce.
Mm-hmm.
So that leads the speculation of, because Emma was very supportive when the announcement was made. Did it add? Did anybody and has anybody taken into account her mental status and her feelings about how she feels, knowing that, because they've been together for quite some time.
Oh,
They've been together since they got married in 2017. So in 4 years, that dynamic has completely changed, and
yeah.
that's something
Mm-hmm.
to look into. So it's a touchy subject. I think that it needs to be explored more. And I'm sure that two assholes from the W2M network's not going to bring up some major talking points on a grand scale, but I think that it's one of those things that does need to be happening. So
Of course. Of course.
so so
I know.
well anyway.
You sounded like you had a little bit of something extra there.
No, I was going to go off on a tangent, but decided not to. But with that, we're going to go into we're this is typically when we make our second break, but I don't feel it coming off such a serious discussion of that is where we need to uh, enter the realm of Amazon Music. So, but I think that this next topic is just as bad. So we'll close out with Amazon Music when we get to the close of the show. But this is the heavy hitting part of the episode. Me and you've talked off air. There's a consensus that me and you may disagree on.
Mm-hmm.
What's going to be said, but we're going to just go head first into it, man. And our last topic of the evening is the shootings, the unfortunate shootings in Atlanta that has occurred. I mean, we touched on it on last episode, but as more information has came out, I felt that giving us a little deeper dive this go around was vastly needed. So I'm going to turn it over to you because you had a lot of things you wanted to say on it. Then I have some things I want to bring up that if you don't touch on, that I'm going to touch on. So I'm going to turn it over to you and let you have free reign.
All right. So this is a story that has been developing over the last couple of days. I'm not going to say the guy's name because fuck him on a few different levels, but the shooter in Atlanta going around to 3 Asian massage parlors, going in, and unfortunately 8 people lost their lives. 6 of them Asian women. I believe it was 4 South Koreans, 2 Chinese. And there were further plots that he wasn't just going to stop there, going around to different places in Atlanta and throughout Georgia, and he actually had plans to travel south down here to Florida to continue the carnage. And yes, it is carnage. I am going to say that flat out now. All of this was compounded by the sheriff's deputy coming out and reporting to the news that he told them, oh, Well, he was doing this just because he had a very bad day and there wasn't any racial or any other sort of intent behind it. This is about 3 separate things that have pissed me off. Number 1. So, because he tells you something, you are automatically going to take him at his word. The same sheriff's deputy that has made shirts and was selling them that said, basically like the Corona beer, but highlighting a certain virus that YouTube really doesn't want us to talk about, plastered all over those shirts. So that is a whole instance, and we've seen with everything in past shooters, like in South Carolina, officers took the dude out to get Burger King after killing 9 people in a church. With what happened in Wisconsin, 2 people shot dead, a third one also shot. All of a sudden, dude is in the wind, not facing that proper justice. So that leads me to this whole different problem of how police are treating this, because this is just further showing that if you look a certain way, just like the man in Idaho who was in a Jack-in-the-Box, got into an argument about a mask, the manager told him to put on one, dude left, came back in, bum rushed him and stabbed him 3 times. He's got his face plastered, they've got video surveillance and everything, having a hard time to find him. So, my issue number 1, if you look a certain way, it seems like you have carte blanche to do these things no matter who it's towards. Anybody. You just go ahead and free reign. And if you don't look that way, well, then you're fucked. Good luck making it out of that situation alive. Number 1. Number 2, when they said that there was no racial motivation behind any of this, I'm going to call bullshit on that one too. You're going ahead and targeting Asian massage parlors, only Asian massage parlors, ignoring all other places of business, owned by all sorts of other people nearby. You're specifically targeting them. That tells me in my mind, you've got something against Asian people. So I'm calling bullshit on what that sheriff's deputy said, because if you're going to this and you're planning picking out these individual businesses, going ahead with your rifle, playing shoot 'em up, yeah, you're planning this. And kind of to dovetail into that issue 2B, this wasn't just racially motivated. Let's also call this for what it was. This was sexist. You were going into these parlors. You weren't targeting men, even though a couple of men were killed. You were targeting Asian women. So what the shit do you have against women? What other problems are going ahead in your mind as a 21-year-old guy against all the women just like this? That is some old other matter of bullshit. So I think that also needs to be tagged as part of this in this hate crime as well. But the third thing that pisses me off, Jason, I don't know whether you'll agree, and I'm gonna forewarn you right now. This is the thing that even Mama Watkins herself told me. You better not say this on your podcast. I'm gonna say it anyway. I get the reactions of stopping Asian hate. Racial injustice in any form is completely wrong. I've made my stance clear on this. But at the same time, all of this going on right now, all of these messages and all of these things, flying the flag at half-staff, this gets me on 2 things. Because number 1, for everything with all of these Asian people who have been discriminated against, you could go all the way back into the 19th century, the immigrants from China building the railroads, horrible mistreatment, being told basically, oh, walk back to China when you're done, which was impossible, through World War II Japanese internment camps, through everything in the 60s, and through the Detroit murder of a Chinese man, Vincent Chin, who, and this is what the auto workers who killed him even mentioned, we mistook him for being Japanese, blamed him for taking our jobs, so we felt right in killing him. All these things have happening yet, really ever since, outside of the civil rights movement, the beginnings of the civil rights movement and going into the heart of it in the 60s, where you had different Asians and those of Asian descent saying about how they were being lumped in and talking about, black people saying, oh, why don't you be like the Japanese and the Chinese? They come over, they know the rules, they're in their place, they don't have a problem with it. Such impassion. Where has that been since then? A movie that we've referenced before, Don't Be a Menace to South Central While Drinking Your Juice in the Hood. You remember the convenience store scene? Hurry up and buy? Yeah, that's a lot of the mentality that Asian people had going into black neighborhoods and how they treated black customers. So there were a lot of kernels of truth in there. And then the second part of it. So now you're doing all this and making public displays. And this is the part that Mama Watkins didn't want me to say. Lowering the flag to half-mast for people who work in Jack Shacks. Why now and why for them? Now, to be fair, I am entirely against sex trafficking. There was the intent of what two bills in Congress, FOSTA and SESTA, were for, that's made my life and lives of a lot of willing sex workers difficult. But we all knew as a collective that that was bullshit because these places still exist. You're just targeting the people who are willing and going into sex work voluntarily in all forms, making their lives a living hell, making it harder for them to earn income while places like this exist. Look at Robert Kraft, for example, coming down here to Florida to get himself a handy at one of these same parlors. So not only are you ignoring that total discussion, but now nothing's been brought to the forefront about what these bills and everything that we're meant to do in all of this ruckus you're causing when, oh, by the way, these places still exist. I would place a huge bet right now the shooter frequented them, got his rocks off in whatever ways for them, and he's now claiming, oh, I have a sex addiction and these places are a temptation for me, so I had to go ahead and eliminate them using lethal force. What the fuck about that too? I mean, yeah, I've had bad days. I don't kill people. I come home, I drink, I smoke weed, I sit and watch TV. I don't kill anybody. And for all these places with all these temptations, yeah, I do things. I go ahead, I make appointments, I set everything up. Everything's good and consensual. We all know what we're doing. We go home, my problem solved, and I'm on my merry way. So you're now building upon this issue, which you claim to have fixed, but realize you did nothing about, which, had you gone ahead and decriminalized, or even, God forbid, legalized prostitution in all of these forms, this could have also been prevented because these women wouldn't have had to lose their lives. They would have had some kind of protection. But no, you old fuckers that do things behind the scenes, and you've been having parties since the 80s and getting into trouble with pages and toe tapping on bathroom stalls. You just want to be able to do that behind the scenes, but publicly, oh, you want to claim morality and all this and that. So this just brings up way too many issues that I am not fond of. And I have a feeling that we're going to be overcorrecting in so many of the wrong ways because of it. And the next thing you know, could be a year, could be 2 years, whenever something like this happens again. And then what? Boy, this is fucking America.
All right, this is a lot to unpack, and I'm going to try to do my best to, as well as interject my thoughts on it. You brought up some things. We're going to go. I'm just going to go at it head on, pull no punches. Some aspects have been handled wrong. Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Some aspects have been, in today's society, have been magnified due to the racial tensions.
Mm-hmm.
Case in point is one I'm going to bring up is the Virginia Tech shooting.
Mm-hmm.
The Virginia Tech shooting is one of the largest mass shootings on a college campus. I think it killed 32, injured 23 on a college campus. Virginia Tech delayed letting students know there was an active shooter for, I think, 90 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how fast a shot can ring out, Erik? How
Hell,
fast you could shoot someone?
fractions of a second. Fractions of a second.
So the delay of almost around 90 minutes could have saved lives.
Mm-hmm.
Virginia Tech was fined for not alerting students of an active shooter. I find issue with this. But you know what's really interesting about this? Is when it happened, it was not a white man. It was not a black man.
Nope.
It was a South Korean.
Mm-hmm.
Now, was there a great grand movement of, you know, uh, Korean superiority, and that's why he done it? No. The kid killed himself. Nobody done it for him. He knew he was fucked. He took the easy way out. He didn't want to face with the consequences. Which, I mean, I understand. He was up shit creek without a paddle. He was
Oh yeah.
he was fucked, and he was probably going to get fucked once he got to jail quite often. But my issue is this: is in today's society, you see certain things exasperated above others. And I think it's a point of the racial divide that we see in this country. You can see, I just read about a black gentleman that stabbed a child in the neck in a McDonald's today.
Oh God.
No media coverage you want, and the gentleman was black, stabbed a child in the neck for unbeknownst reasons, waiting in line at McDonald's. Very little media coverage. I think the media, we've talked about this before, media dictates narrative.
Mm-hmm.
As long as the media can divide this country on racial tensions, they'll be able to control this country. You don't you don't get the luxury of getting the truth of any story. Without first-hand account, every story is biased.
Mm-hmm.
And with that being said, I know me and you joke around a lot, and but sometimes we get serious, and this is one of those times. with the racial tensions there, I I feel that some of the things mean you joke around. The people not knowing us. We've said this before. Shit could be misunderstood, and we could be labeled racist toward each other.
Very easily.
But I learned something today, and I'm going to ask your your opinion on this, and then I'm going to get into the core of my thoughts on this shooting. Uh, it's just a simple yes no um, answer. Can you be racist toward a white man?
Yes.
Okay. I think people have the issue of prejudice and racist confused. And I think, and that dovetails into this. The issues that occur at these establishments, I think these establishments should not exist because most of the time that I've researched and came across something like this, most of the time these issues are fronts for human trafficking.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Precisely.
or basically, what a lot of people don't really understand now is it's basically the modernized indentured servitude.
Mm-hmm.
Is they get you into the country, you work for them, you do whatever they say.
Yep.
But the problem with that is they don't see they get into the country, but they're basically slaves to whoever brought them here, and
Yes.
it's a modernization of the slave trade. I'm just going to put it
Mm-hmm.
out there. It's the modern slave trade. Just
You're not
because,
getting any disagreements from me. You're
and
not.
that's
Mm.
that's that's where people don't realize this is they turn a blind eye to sex trafficking, to everything, and and people seem to be okay with it. It's if these establishments were consensual and it wasn't as shady as it's known to be, different story. But a lot of these women of Oriental descent that's working these are not willingly working these.
Right.
Um, and that's where I think the waters get murky. And I feel that this was an issue
Mm-hmm.
where the um, the shooter became disillusioned. I agree that he frequented these places a lot. I think that maybe he frequented so much that he was considered a regular. Had a
Mm-hmm.
Some of these ladies, he was part of their clientele as a regular,
Mm-hmm.
and just like a stripper that pays you attention in a strip club that makes you feel special, to
Yep.
somebody that doesn't get that feeling outside of this arrangement, we'll put it,
Mm-hmm.
he became disillusioned. He thought that there was a relationship, and I'm going out on a limb this and totally speculate. I feel that this stemmed from he thought there was a pseudo relationship between him and some of these people that he was regulars with because it was multiple areas. And I think that maybe he mentally fascinated about a relationship, and that's what created this. And the rejection and the realization that just because they're nice to you is for money, not love, um, or basically for the love of money. Um, and that's triggered him. Now, the cop coming out saying it wasn't racially motivated, I think is bullshit. But like I said, I mean, you could take that if my theory's right, you could say that it wasn't racially motivated because he could have thought there was a relationship that didn't exist and that set him off. So, I mean, you got to look at two sides of the coin here. Yes, it was targeted a certain demographic, but if he was believing that he had a relationship within, then I could see where they could say it wasn't racially motivated. I could see that it was basically quote unquote crime of passion, and I'm pretty sure that that's what's going to come out.
Probably, and the only reason why I would counter that is because there were other similar establishments nearby and in that area that weren't run or didn't have Asians. I did a little research, and there were other different parlors that had Spanish women. They were untouched. So you're right as far as the crime of passion idea, and that goes back to what I mentioned about sex trafficking as well, that yes, if you really wanted to target and go after sex trafficking, there's a lot of different ways that you did it. And signing these bills that were supposed to have stopped it, you're taking down websites and things, didn't work. And that never fulfilled the purpose. Now, going back to your original point, do I think that there was some sort of element? Probably. That's something that you would need a psychiatric evaluation for. Now, if there indeed were these other similar establishments that didn't have Asian women there that weren't even considered, then I think that argument is in some ways disqualified, and it goes back to both the crime of passion and the racial motivations as well. That's something that I really do think needs to be further discussed and discovered.
Yeah, I'm not defending this guy whatsoever. So,
no, right. No, you're not.
So, only Asians were shot, correct? Of Asian descent.
I think
okay.
Not entirely, but those in the parlors themselves, yes. The other two people who were shot happened to be outside of the parlor and almost like collateral damage. They weren't initially targeted.
And the two outside were males, right?
Yes.
So this goes back to my theory.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a type of female you're attracted to, Erik?
I don't have a specific type. I have a whole different spectrum. So I'm not entirely the best guy to ask.
Like okay, let's go. We're going to go to hell in a handbasket real quick. Do you know anybody that only dates white girls?
Yeah, I have.
Do you know any guys that only date black girls?
There's a few of them out there that's starting to be more of a thing. Yes.
Do you have any know of anybody that only dates Asian chicks?
Me specifically, no.
But it's probable, right?
But oh yeah, because I mean, I've even run into in some of my other dating and hobbyist adventures alike, I'll have some that specifically say, hey, I only date outside of my race. I don't date outside of my race. Some providers that they have to specify that they're African American friendly, because you have so many that specifically say, hey, I don't meet with African Americans. Do I like it? Not necessarily. I'm not fond of it, but hey, their choice. I go find someone else and I have a great time.
Exactly. So you're saying that there's a possibility of people only attracted to a certain race.
Yeah, and again,
so
totally open for that. fully open for that.
So the issue could be, and I think, and I'm going to go out, and I'm going to say that this is probably going to be what this spun to. The guy had a Oriental fetish.
Oh yeah, and that's something definitely been explored.
And I think that it's going to come out something like this, that it was a fetish type thing that caused him to believe that there was more of a relationship than what there actually was. And that's why you've seen all this. But we're going to leave it at that, because to wrap this up, I want to touch on something that is, I want to end this on a lighter note, because we've got heavy this time, pretty heavy, heavier than a fat kid at a carnival. But I want to end it on this, and it's the same topic. The issue coming out that you have all these woke social justice warriors wanting to raise awareness. So they want to show their solidarity for the Asian community by changing their social media icons, avatars, profile pictures to a yellow square.
Isn't that the same thing of why Dr. Seuss and Theodore Geisel's family decided, we're not going to publish some of these books. Some of these people are a little bit too yellow and this wouldn't fly?
Yes. So I just got a question. So showing your solidarity by making a racial statement, is that counterproductive?
Very.
Okay.
As I always like to say, irony is the universe's sense of humor. Yeah, always remember that.
Yeah, because I don't see how making a racist stereotypical comment is showing solidarity. Do I understand that, the black square that came out, that I understood, because people identify as black. I'm pretty sure that you don't go up to somebody that's Asian and ask if they identify as a yellow person.
This reminds me of another scene. Have you ever seen Not Another Teen Movie?
Yes. Actually,
the one guy who is like one of the main characters goes up to the Asian dudes. It's just like that. What up, my yellow brothers? Chinks in the house. Dudes looked at him, kicked his ass in the chest. I thought that was hilarious because I was like, yeah, that's what you get.
Yeah. So, like I said, I mean, I wanted to end it on that because that was something that I seen that I've kind of found comical, because you have these stereotypical appropriations being assigned by the woke mob that in retrospect are actually more racist than stuff that they're speaking out against. It's kind of that. And this is going to lead us. I'm going to go ahead and give a teaser for next episode. When we talk about segregation graduation.
Oh, yeah.
So that's coming
Be
to you
prepared
next
for that one.
That's coming to you next Monday. So, Erik, where can they listen to all of our past podcasting outside of YouTube, because they can go fuck themselves?
Well, I mean, we have a variety of ways. Of course, as we advertise on the kickoff, another fine W2M Network podcast, Stitcher, Spreaker, Podbean, Castbox, Spotify, what have you. But entering the foray, Amazon Music. Because if you happen to have an Alexa-powered device, you can just say, hey, Alexa, listen to W2M Network, and you'll get the latest podcast played. If you want to listen to something else on Amazon Music, they have a wide variety, an extensive music library, all kinds of other podcasts, which I don't know why you would listen to theirs compared to ours, but hey, that's beside the point. So, Amazon Music is another new place to go. Just like with others, you go to a certain link, you get an Amazon Music offer straight from us at W2M because we're good like that. All you got to do is go to getamazonmusic.com/W2M network. You can begin perusing everything that they have to offer. Again, getamazonmusic.com/W2M network.
You can enjoy previous shows that you can find here on the Radledge Broadcasting, on the W2M network, such as Radledge Broadcasting Network, such as Rattling Broadcasting Network, Metal Hammer and Doom, On Trial, Chapter Select with our friend Randy Isbell, The Kickoff. Trying to think what else there. And you can even see me pop up on a few RIB episodes doing some movie reviews. I actually think the next one I'm supposed to be on is the Mortal Kombat review. I'm really looking forward to that. So you can always use the Amazon Music, search for it, W2M Network, and enjoy all of our podcasting, plethora of our podcasting earhole orgasms that you can experience. So with that, never do that again. With that, Erik, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at SquidSportsHead. Still doing a few live tweeting, and yes, as we go deeper into the tournament, I will be live tweeting some games. And as a little bit of a preview for our next episode of the Kickoff, as someone had Loyola Chicago making a run. I wonder who. But if you're interested in something else and asking about tutoring advice or seeing me start some sort of flame war, you can find me on Facebook, Eric Watkins. Look for the picture of the guy in the recliner holding a glass of wine next to the pile of laundry. Or, naturally, as we mentioned earlier, if you're looking for something extra special, hit me up on Twitter, slide into my DMs, undergo the proper and thorough vetting process. You'll get access to my dark Twitter, my Snapchat, my OnlyFans, and a plethora of other places where you find me on, including Kick and a couple of others.
Yeah, and you can locate me on Twitter at W2M Chairman. As I discovered today, I can make TikToks now, so you can actually find me there at Turkaglue822. No, I think it's actually at Turk822 as TikTok. So let me see here. It's at Turk822 on TikTok. You'll see my Jeep. You'll see my new puppy. And you might see me pop in and do some show promotions and stuff. So definitely go there. Follow. Send me a like. Tell me how much you love my Jeep and wish you was me to own it. If not, because you hate me because you ain't me. And I'll probably tell you to go fuck yourself because it's my Jeep and you can eat a bag of dicks. But with that being said, I think it's pretty much does it for a very insightful episode this week, Erik. Hopefully we don't get canceled by Sean and we don't wake up to Sean pissed off at us again. I don't think he should have any reasons this week. But if you do have any hate mail, it's s.garmer@gmail.com. And I think that about wraps us up.
Yeah, that does it for me. One brief shout out to Jeremy Lin and Kenyon Martin. Hope you all can mend your fences, Chinese tattoos, dreads, and all.